I want to emphasize the difference between ancient physics and modern physics. If you were Aristotle and you were thinking about physics, you had a story to tell, and that story was one of causes and purposes, right? Of natures of things to be a certain way. And from the physics point of view, one of the important points was, in order for something to move, you had to push it. There had to be a reason why it was moving. There was a natural state of being, which was for any one thing more or less at rest, until you shoved it, right? So here you see that a reminder that Aristotle was no dummy, right? In our everyday life, it is generally true that if you want to get something moving, you have to push it. And therefore, it was really quite an enormous step forward when we began to realize that that wasn't how physics worked fundamentally. There began to be a difference between sort of the underlying laws and the phenomenological experience that we have in our everyday life. Turns out to be a very long story of people realizing this. Ibn sometimes Latinized as Avicenna, was a polymath during the Islamic Golden Age. He was Persian around the year 1000. And physicists consider him extremely annoying because his day job was he was a physician. He was a doctor, and he wrote many volumes on health and medicine. And then, like, in his spare time on the weekends, he invented new fundamental laws of physics, right? This does not endear you to the community of physicists. So, as far as I can tell, Ibn Sina was the first person to say out loud that if it weren't for these messy things like friction and air resistance, what would actually happen to a moving object is it would just stay moving. That you don't need to keep something moving. Things tend to move by themselves. It's just the ordinary, or things would tend to move by themselves, but it's just that we're surrounded by dissipation and what we now call friction that prevents them. Now, it was a long time ago. Ibn Sina's point was not that that's how the world really was. He thought of this as a reductio against the idea that there could be empty space, because surely you don't think that things just move forever, right? Of course, now we know there are things very, very close to empty space. We fly spacecraft up into them, and they seem to move forever. There's no rockets propelling the Voyager probe out into interstellar space. It's just moving. And that creates an enormously different view of how the world works. For one thing, this would be a whole nother talk, but it does help naturalize our view of the world.